Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started. I know people will keep trickling in, but I want to respect everyone's time. And we will be sending a recording of this presentation out to everybody at the end. So if you can't join for the whole thing, you will still get to hear this whole session. I also want to introduce Lana Sanderson. She is helping me make our presentation today. And so she is also going to be the person to text if you've got a question you'd like to ask at the end, and she'll get that all organized. So, or if you have any technical difficulties, whatever, she's the go-to person. She's certainly my go-to person. And she is one of the highly trusted virtual assistants that supports results resourcing. And so today really is the next in a series of webinars that we're offering all around helping solopreneurs and small employers scale you. Since so many businesses are doing it all, we're really looking to help businesses do more. And one of the tools to do more is through effective delegation and outsourcing. And that's our topic today. And so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Elizabeth Eiss, and I'm the CEO and founder of ResultsResourcing. And my whole purpose in life at this point in my life is to empower business owners to scale and to have the impact that they want. And so I have a really interesting background, and I'm just going to share it a little bit just to give you context for, I guess, why I'm doing this today and what really motivates me. But I spent years running business operations in Fortune 5,000 companies. Fortune 500 companies as well, and did a lot of delegation and outsourcing myself. I joined my first tech startup in 2002, and I've been an entrepreneur and an angel investor ever since. So I've seen the world of outsourcing and delegation both as a business owner as well as an investor, and how outsourcing can help a business scale and be more worthy of investment interest. So over that time, I've spent the last 2 decades hiring freelancers myself. And I really discovered in the process how difficult it is for people that don't have my background to find great talent to help them scale. And that was really what caused me to launch Results Resourcing in 2015. And what I felt was important is making sure there was a human being to talk to help in understanding the needs that you might have in hiring a fractional talent. And so we've really developed a business that's both technology hybrid as well as contract staffing, a business that's really run largely by humans, but utilizing technology to make it efficient. And I mentioned the whole notion of delegating and outsourcing because it's a hard question for a lot of people that haven't done it before. But again, I have a lot of courage to share because I've spent really much of my professional career delegating because I led small and large teams of both freelance and contract talent. And I've spent the last 10 years with Results Resourcing, connecting business owners with vetted, high-performing freelance professionals. And I really have hundreds of successful client placements with very high satisfaction rates under our belt as Results Resourcing. And really, at the end of the day, we have a skill in helping business owners to successfully outsource. And one of the ways I'd like to help more people scale you is by sharing this, really in a webinar form as well. So you can go back and look at it more and more. And this isn't necessarily about results resourcing today. It's really about the lessons we've learned from supporting many clients over the years. So why am I so interested in solopreneurs and small employers? Well, they are the vast majority of businesses in the United States. And I figure if I can help a small fraction of those businesses scale and be more successful, then I'm going to sleep well at night, and those businesses are going to have the impact that they want. So there's almost 129 million solopreneurs in the United States, and another 6 million employers with less than 10 to 20 employees, I think. So it's a huge realm of businesses that do so many things. But what's concerning, and these are SBA numbers, is the average annual revenue is pretty low. Solopreneurs on average make $50,000 a year. And if you're a small employer, you can see the numbers there. 1 to 4 employees is 400,000, 5 to 9, $1 million, 10 to 19, $2 million. So none of these businesses are big, and probably not enough capital to really invest in growing and scaling the business to have the impact that they want. The other thing that's concerning are the survival rates. And at 5 years, less than 50% of the businesses are still active. And the numbers go down from there. And many failure reasons are because they ran out of money, obsolete products and services, they were outcompeted. And, in working with as many small businesses as I've had, many of these failure reasons are basically associated with the fact that they haven't found ways to scale, to gain expertise that will help them stay relevant and compete actively in the market. So I'm really kind of a mission and a business rolled together in results resourcing. So to me, the small business growth dilemma can be boiled down to a couple of things: control versus delegating, time versus growth, quality versus scale. And all of these dilemmas, the balancing of these two things, leads to burnout, missed opportunities, slow business expansion, and really plateauing a business much earlier than it should. So many small businesses really take the DIY approach to scaling because it's comfortable and it's what they do know. So there's some real pros to that, namely it's cost effective, at least at first, because you don't have to hire somebody else. You're just going to do it yourself. You have control because you do things the way you want to do them. And it's an opportunity to learn. In fact, I did each of these same things with results resourcing. And I learned so much along the way, both from the things that we were successful doing as well as the things that we weren't. So honestly, I'm speaking to myself here too. I've learned a lot of these lessons myself as a small business owner. But the cons to DIY is it's a time drain. You burn out. There's only so much time in the day. And honestly, there's no one that's a unicorn. You can't be expert in everything. And so you really need to think about what's a way to think differently about the work that needs to be done. And so that really leads me what I call the time dilemma, which is at the heart of everything. And so to me, time is your most valuable asset, and it is really probably the only one that is truly finite. There are only 24 hours in the day. So the question that I would invite all of you to ask is whether you're investing your time or spending your time. And to me, those are two very simple buckets, if you will. Anything you do to generate revenue or deliver value to whatever clients you serve, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit client, you're investing your time in the greater good of your business. Anything else is spending time. And people interchange spend and invest a lot, but I think spending is more meaningful because it's cost. It's the cost to run your business. But if it's not generating revenue or delivering value, you're spending rather than investing your time. So I invite you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil and just write down, back a napkin, how much is an hour of your time worth? And there's no right answer, just whatever you think is appropriate. And then write down how many hours a week do you work? And then multiply the two. And that's going to give you just a really rough ballpark estimate of the value of the time that you work every single week. And that's a quick math example, and I'm going to share more in a moment on that. But I've also built a small tool, tech tool. It takes like 3 to 5 minutes to do, depending on how much time you want to put into it. But you can scan this QR code or go to that URL, and this will take you through the same process. And the whole point is helping you understand the opportunity cost of when you're spending time versus investing time. And it'll give you some of the first ideas about maybe ways you might want to outsource to improve the amount of time you spend doing your core value. So let me share, though, however, the average results of the ROI of time calculator with you. No one ever says their time is worth $10. The average is 166 of all the people that have ever taken our survey, and the number of hours they work a week is 58. So to me, going back to this notion of what work generates revenue, the interesting thing is out of everyone that's ever taken this, 43% of people's time is spent generating revenue. So in this case, the math is 25 hours a week times 166. They're investing $4,000 a week in their core business, delivering value, generating new business with clients. Non-core work is converse, 57%. The majority of people's time is spent on non-core work, on the work that doesn't generate revenue. So the same math, 33 hours times 166 is $5,500 a week. So if you think your time is free as you're doing it yourself, it's not. That opportunity cost is significant. And if you can convert even some of those non-core work hours to generating revenue, frankly, that frees you up and it will pay for whatever support talent that you hire to help you get there. So it's a really interesting way to rethink the notion of DIY versus getting someone that might be have more expertise to help you do a particular thing. So these are some of the hidden costs of backroom work. Clearly missed opportunities. You're too busy to go to a networking event or run out of time on proposals. You don't have the green space to think about your business, to innovate, to, as they say, work on your business rather than in your business. You're less efficient and the quality is lower because you may be able to do your books in QuickBooks, but you're not necessarily a bookkeeper. So you don't bring the same level of expertise to that work. And so there's tons of people out there that are specialists, as frankly, most solopreneurs or small businesses are specialized in something. And that's why people come to you. And so there's other people that are specialized in other things that can help you grow your business. And lastly, there's less energy for living. There's other things to do besides work and earning revenue. And that's an important thing to consider too. So to me, the solution is all about outsourcing to scale you. So to me, it's just three things. It's what, how, and who. And the first thing, and we're going to talk more about each of these things in this session, is to identify core versus non-core work. And I'll tell you more about what that is. Then plan how to get work done. And I follow a specific process. These words are not interchangeable. It's process first, then tools, then people. So the first thing to reach for is not a human being necessarily. There's other ways to outsource work. And I'm going to talk about how process and tools can help you do that. And then, frankly, you need fewer people once you've outsourced to process and tools. And then lastly, evaluate potential delegation and outsourcing solutions, because there's many. And you got to pick the one that's right for you and your business, and right for you and your business at a given point in time, because things change. So we're going to have a case study for a CEO of a small business. And I picked a client that I thought was fairly representative of the many clients that we've supported. And so I'm going to kind of bookend the talk around where we started with this client. And this client lacked time to do a lot of things. One person really wanted to find ways to nurture the existing clients that were satisfied. You don't want to ignore those people that are happy. You want to find out what else they need. He also needed to cultivate and nurture new leads so he could grow his business. He had ideas for new services, as well as speaking that he wanted to do. And then there were other things he wanted to do. He's kind of a jock and wanted to do running and biking and things like that, and really found it hard to fit those kind of activities into his life. And so really the impact was business growth plateaued. And in fact, in some senses, his life plateaued in a lot of different areas. And what he came to us for were these outcomes: more time for clients, creativity, and public speaking. And as I said, this is probably a pretty common profile for a lot of small businesses, regardless of the specialty. These problems are fairly universal. So let me go back to the notion of core versus non-core work, because that's where we started with this client. Again, the core work is what your client pays you for. That's how you deliver value and generate revenue. Anything else is non-core work. It's the work your client doesn't pay you for, at least not directly. And to me, there's all kinds of ways to think about what work should be done and not work should be done, but this is the simplest way to think about it. What do you get paid for? What are you paying for? And that's the way to split the buckets. And I really think of core work as being the front office and non-core work being the back office. And to me, anything that's in the back office is prime candidate for delegating or outsourcing to someone else, either on your team or to an outsourced service provider. So these, to me, are the elements to consider. You have time, and it's in a jar with a lid on it because it's finite. And then you kind of have core work. And these are your ROI priorities, and these are rocks. And this actually is an example you've probably seen in various other presentations, but I think it's really relevant. And then anything that's non-core is sand. Small granules of things that need to be done, but it's everything else that's non-core. And so these are a couple scenarios. So if you choose to kind of work, I don't want to say indiscriminately, but just without a whole lot of prioritization of core versus non-core, your jar can get filled up a lot with sand, all these routine things that need to happen every day. And at the end of the day, you're trying to jam the high ROI activities into a jar that's jam-packed with sand. Another way to think about it is really to think strategically about work and have a high ROI work concept. And in this concept, you put the big rocks into the jar first. Then you fill all the small tasks around it. And some of those small tasks can even go away because you've outsourced them to someone else that loves to do that work and is doing it for you while you're concentrating on your high ticket work. So it's just a way to really visualize how to think about core versus non-core work and how to prioritize. So do or delegate, that's always the question. And again, a little repetitive here, but the things you should be doing are the things your customers value, the things that generate revenue, profit, and impact. And maybe you should be doing the stuff that, as long as you're good at it, that you love to do. The stuff you should be considering delegating are the backroom, the non-core activities, admins, ops, or things that you need fractional skill. I'll use the bookkeeping example again, where someone's going to be better at it because they're a specialist, or things you don't like to do or you're just not good at. All of these things are non-core work, and it's costs you money, costs you time, costs you energy. So to look at it another way, here's some examples. In the do category, these would be commonly things that most business probably should be retained by the business owner. Things that are all around client value delivery, even if you have support help, business strategy, anything to do with your finance, innovation, partnerships, marketing strategy, setting the tone for your brand voice and how it gets communicated, and certainly spending time developing your community and your network. On the other hand, these are all things that are non-core, which are common to every single business. Anything that's admin, everyone's got email and schedule management issues. I really encourage people to have a CRM if they don't have one. It helps them organize their data and their activities. Marketing and social media, while you might want to set the tone at a strategy level, there's people that are great at executing this stuff and will be more effective at doing it. Content writing, project management, bookkeeping, website support, event management research. These are just all common things that people have found are very successful to outsource. The only thing I would note is, depending on the business, if you're a bookkeeping business, that's probably core. If you're a digital agency, marketing and social media execution is probably core. So some of these things might shift a little bit depending on your business, but for the most part, this is a pretty good break, showing examples of do versus delegate and outsource work. So let me get back to process, tools, and people, because once you've thought about your core versus your non-core in your work, and you're focused on how do I get the non-core work done, I think it's process, tools, then people. So let's talk about process first. And most people go, oh, boring. I'm not interested. I'm not a process person. But I have a different view of process. I think it's a business asset. Because if you ever want to sell your business, someone who's going to buy it is going to want to know how you execute the value you deliver. So thinking about process as a business asset is a different framing of process. It's not boring anymore. It's really the essentials for how you satisfy your clients, why they come to you. But you don't have to necessarily be a process person, but you need to build repeatable processes. And there's plenty of people that love to do this that can help you do it. But the reason process is so important is it helps you deliver your value consistently, helps you get more done consistently, and it's the first way to help you delegate and outsource. Because if you've documented how it's done, you can outsource it to someone who can do the process as you've designed it. But as I mentioned, you may not be a process person, and no problem. There are tons of people, freelance pros, that love to interview you, get process out of your head onto a piece of paper, or frankly, you can use AI. Build me a process to do X, which you can then edit or ask someone that's a process person to do for you. So there's lots of ways to develop this business asset that can be the foundation of delegation and outsourcing. The second step is tools. So many people don't think about it this way, but you should use tech tools that fit your process. So instead of looking for that unicorn tool that's going to automate everything, people end up buying a tool that they think is going to be the magic pill. And then they fit their process to the tool rather than the tool fitting the process. So if business process is important to how you deliver value, it's important to fit a tool into your process that will help you accelerate that process. So to me, tech tools are all about saving time and money and fitting the tools into how you do business. So it's offloading repetitive tasks to tools rather than people. Tools have lower costs and they're fixed costs rather than variable costs like people have. Tools are hugely important for capturing valuable data. Data in someone's head is not valuable. If it's in a database, it's valuable. You can leverage it to learn about your business or to come up with new ideas about your business or just to analyze your results. And I really encourage people to embrace artificial intelligence. It's not scary. It's a tool, just another tool. It's got more capabilities than a CRM system, but artificial intelligence is a great way to do more. And these are examples that I see every day. AI can be used to automate routine processes. In fact, many tools embed AI, like a CRM or email management tools. A lot of AI is being embedded in those tools. It will also help you automate responses, like for a website. You might want to have a bot that can answer common questions or an answering service. And one of the ways I use it the most is to ideate and to synthesize information. Help me analyze this pile of data or these different articles. What are the common thoughts? Whatever it might be, AI can be just a superb tool for you. And again, if you're not a tech person or an AI person, that's not a problem either, because there is a freelance pro that loves to do that stuff, will help you choose the tools that are right for your business and help you to optimize them, not just install them. And then the last thing is people. I really am a believer in leveraging minds. Use people for critical thinking and creative thinking, and leverage the process and the tools that you've built for your business or bought for your business to do that. So to me, it's in this order, not in any other order: process, tools, then people. And those people can be employees, they can be network or business partners, or freelance or contract professionals. Honestly, if you need somebody to help you with anything, there is somebody out there to do that. And we are living in the world today of fractionals. 10 years ago, when I started Results Resourcing, I had to convince people that freelancers actually chose to be freelancers versus people who couldn't get real jobs. Today, freelancing or being a fractional is a profession. And that's what I believe professional virtual assistants are too. So let me take this idea and move forward with it a little bit, because I talked about AI a little bit and I talked about virtual assistants. And you see in this chart, HVA, that stands for human virtual assistant. Because actually, if you type into ChatGPT, as I have, tell me what a virtual assistant is, what comes back is a digital virtual assistant. It's Alexa, Siri, those kind of tools. And I'm really all about human virtual assistants that are really enabled, by AI. So if you think about virtual assistants as being a professional support service, people who are professional that can help you with your outsourced back room, then at the low end of the spectrum are tasks, things that are clerical, data entry oriented, really routine workflows, templates and scripts, all things that process and tools can build for you and are great ways to get tasks done. But at the opposite end of the spectrum, in terms of virtual assistants, professional support services, are all these things that I list here: critical thinking, problem solving, creative, being consultative, helping with time management, attention to detail. Plus, human VAs that are professionals at this are very self-motivated. They're in business as human professional service providers for administrative services, self-motivated, and they're human. So I really think that thinking about delegating and outsourcing work, you've got to kind of think about your non-core work in terms of what are tasks, what are things that I really need an outcome that I'm shooting for rather than a task. And what's interesting to me is digital AIs or digital VAs or AI VAs really are taking over this low end of the market because tools can do so much more. But I really think that over time, it's going to keep, that frontier is going to keep migrating more and more into the critical thinking, the problem solving. But, at the end of the day, AI is not human. So to me, I think digital virtual assistants plus human virtual assistants is the right answer, because AI still needs to be fact checked. Well, actually, you need to ask the right questions. If you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers back. And if everybody asks the same question, they're all going to get the same answers back. So really, if you want to fact check, guard against hallucinations, deal with the fact that you're going to have a limited historical database, depending on which tool you use, you need to apply a reasonable test, someone that will own the results. To me, it just speaks to having a combination of technology plus humans is really what's going to reflect the human voice of your brand and just be humanity itself. I just think it's really important. So I totally embrace the use of AI, but I think it's really important to have AI with humans. So let's come back to our solopreneur. These were the outcomes that he was looking for. His name was Joe, actually. And he was looking for clients, creativity, public speaking. The results of outsourcing and delegating is he had more time for his core initiatives that would generate revenue impact. He doubled his revenue. And through the work that he did, he was actually earned enough that it covered the cost of his VA and then some. So he was, in the black after paying for his VA. And these were the key roles that he outsourced. Some of the same things that you've seen in previous slides, from the admin to client support, lead gen. A lot of people really need lead gen and pipeline development. Started to help him with pitching podcasts and speaker opportunities. And I kind of put this next one in italics because the VA helped him build, market, and manage courses. So he could have a passive income source. And then on the right-hand side were a lot of the marketing activities or work on the website, as well as invoicing and bookkeeping. And I found this last one particularly interesting as well. In the beginning, Joe had some trouble managing his time and was actually using the VA to help him be accountable for how he was investing his time versus spending his time. So there are two ways to get scaling solutions, full-time hiring or fractional support, and both have pros and cons. From a full-time hiring standpoint, the pros are availability, consistency, and team culture. You've hired somebody and they work consistently just for you, only for you, and are focused for you. The cons, though, are it's difficult to find quality candidates, and depending on the age group and the location and whether you want people in the office or out of the office, it's not easy. And whenever you hire, you're adding to your overhead costs. You're paying for insurance and benefits and computers and all sorts of additional costs. And there's commitment risk. People are hesitant to hire because it's hard to fire. And then you run the risk of you might need to replace somebody, and you're managing the angst of all of that, plus the work to having to replace somebody you hired. And at the end of the day, it's all very time consuming. On a fractional basis, and I'm clearly, a proponent of fractional, but I understand it might be a combination of fractional and full-time to get work done. But to me, I think there's a lot of pros to fractional. They're flexible and scalable. You have access to specialists just for the time you need them. You don't have to hire that specialist for all the time, not 40 hours a week. Or get that person's expertise for the time you need on a project or a time-based basis. But there are some cons. Again, there's difficulty finding quality candidates. You can kiss a lot of frogs, whether you're talking about full-time people or freelancers. And it can be very time-consuming, no question about it. So how do you really think about hiring freelancers if that's the route you choose? To me, it's really about optimizing the use of your time and your capital. And the thing that I think is great about freelancers is they're flexible, they're skillful, and they're highly available. And so to me, freelancers are a good choice for offloading non-core work. If you want to scale up or down because they're flexible and they can move with you as your business goes up and down or is seasonal. You add results-oriented talent because, again, these people are not they're not punching a clock. They're really paid for performance. And I think that's a benefit. And many are business owners, entrepreneurs themselves. So they stand in your shoes. They know what it's like to be someone that's been a DIY entrepreneur growing a business. They can really add broad thinking and experience. They work for other companies, other clients in other industries, and they can bring broad thinking to whatever you're doing. And so you don't have to recreate the wheel. They can add tech and AI utilization skills. Fractional virtual assistants today are highly technical. They know how to not only help pick the right technology tools for a business, how to set them up, but more importantly, to optimize them. I can't tell you how many business owners I've spoken to that have had systems, but they're never optimized. They're set up to some bare minimum, but they're not leveraging their contact database with their CRM system to get newsletters out or any number of things. So optimizing these tools is a real skill set. And lastly, I think you can use freelancers to learn how to delegate and outsource. Because if you find somebody you can trust, and that's the foundation for any business relationship, really, once you've got the foundation of trust, what I see happening is a business owner like Joe, he started with one thing, some finite set of low-risk things that he felt comfortable outsourcing, and it wasn't going to be a catastrophe if there was a miscommunication. But after a time, developed trust with the agency that was supporting him. And suddenly he was asking, well, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? So the range of things he became comfortable outsourcing broadened, and he became comfortable delegating and outsourcing because most VAs that do professional admin services will help you with structure and help you with time management, all those things that lead to more successful delegation and outsourcing. So how do you find a freelance pro if, again, that's what you've chosen to do? Well, there's so many of them on the planet. There's almost 77 million freelancers in the United States and 1.6 billion freelancers globally. So that's finding a needle in a haystack is an understatement there. There's two ways: DIY, which is using network referrals, which I think, I belong to a number of different networks and often get skilled professionals at different things because of my network. And there's also online platforms. There's many of them for whether it's general platforms like Upwork or specialist platforms for content or whatever it might be. There's a plethora of choices. And then you can also use recruiters, and that's clearly what I am. We are contract specialists, and you pay for our service value. But low ROI is DIY. So you got to kiss a lot of frogs. Whereas working with a recruiter, while we are paid for service, we deliver high ROI. We do it for you. And in our case, we guarantee satisfaction. So let me tell you a little bit more about results resourcing, which kind of culminates as how I ended up being in this business, being a high proponent of outsourcing. But we are talent specialists plus technology. And I really think the best of both worlds, because we start and end with humans, but we use technology really to make us more efficient. So we have a fully automated proprietary technology platform, but we don't ask you to use it. We use it to make ourselves more efficient. What we ask you to do is talk to us. So you talk to human entrepreneurs, because I'm building a business too. You access skilled, scalable talent through us, and it's cost-effective and quick. So what we do is we basically match you to pre-vetted freelance professionals. They are all in the United States and Canada, as opposed to offshore. Although there are super smart people all over the world that speak and write English well, they're not necessarily familiar. They didn't grow up here. So they don't necessarily understand the culture like a person that grew up in the US or Canada does. So our freelancers are skilled in professional practices, culture, and communication styles that are important here. And sometimes if you're doing client support work or writing or whatever it might be, those kinds of tones are very important. And other kinds of work that's more data-oriented, perhaps not. So it's really what you need that's going to be the driver. And then, well, I'm a little ahead of myself here. we focus on teams and individuals, but at the end of the day, we match you to a team. And the reason we do that is because the team can provide skilled breadth and depth by role type. While you just get to know one team, they get to know you, you can access as you need it, different skills. And probably the simple example is a lot of people come to us for bookkeeping, and then that's handled, they need something else like social media. Well, the bookkeeper is not the person that does social media. So you either got to hire 2 different freelancers, or you can hire a team that can move with you as your business moves. We also don't have any minimum hours commitments, and our teams are ready to work in 24 to 48 hours because they're pre-vetted. And frankly, that came about from listening to my clients. They loved the fact that they could get freelancers from us, but in the early days, it would take us a month to find, vet, curate talent. But when we moved to teams, they're pre-vetted. And so we really tried to remove all the barriers. So you don't have to sign up for a retainer for X number of hours a month. No problem. You need 2 hours, then you need 10 hours. We really flex with you. And again, as I said, the teams can be up and running for you in 24 to 48 hours. And these are our most popular roles. And, in the beginning, we started with a virtual assistant, an executive assistant, social media, those kind of basic roles. And our roles have just continued to expand as we've listened to the primary needs of our clients. And what we try to do is, in our conversations with clients, get you in the correct bucket, and then help you get the individual skills you need that within the framework of these broad roles. And as I mentioned, we offer a guaranteed satisfaction, because at the end of the day, we want to grow with you, and keeping an open door to making that happen is really what this is all about. So to wrap everything up, I'm a big believer in getting started, even if it's small, on delegation. And as you go, you will become more effective. And there's people that can help you be effective by helping you be successful with what you outsource. So to me, there's kind of 5 takeaways. One is understand and respect the value of your time. It is not free. And then do core work. Find ways to outsource, delegate non-core work. Use the PTP method, the process, then tools, then people approach, and leverage human and digital virtual assistant tools to optimize your results. And that, at the end of the day, is going to help you maximize your impact. So with that concludes our remarks, and I'd be happy to take some questions. And that at the end of the day, this is a way you can book time with me if you want to, and we can just talk through. It's a free consult just to kind of talk further about what we've talked about today, but I'd be happy to take any questions now that you might have. So I'm going to ask Lana to open the floor and let me know if there's any questions from the group that's here with us today.
Thank you so much. I will start off with some questions that came in through the chat. Confidentiality.
With
Sorry. Thank you. Okay. Tanya is asking, how would I find leads for nonprofit organization?
In terms of business development, for you to go out and sell your services to nonprofits? Is that?
Yes, I think. Is that correct? Do you want to speak up? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, basically that kind of role, it could be a couple of different things. The first would probably be to assess what kind of tools you have in place. Like, are you on LinkedIn? Do you have a profile on LinkedIn? How's your website look? Is your website, optimized, to bring in leads? I mean, we'd probably baseline it to better understand what tools you already have in place. But then understanding those tools, virtual assistants, we have a very specific role around, lead generation and pipeline development. And it's all about building the funnel from the top. Once we better understand your business, to help you, organize the leads that you have in some sort of a CRM system. So you're managing those leads. That would be another important thing, as well as what kind of outreach, where would be your target clients or target nonprofits, and building you a strategy, around that. The virtual assistant services we provide, we are not strategists, but we're very good at helping you optimize your execution. And I also have plenty of marketing and pipeline strategy consultants that we work with that I can refer you to. So that would be the baseline, is we probably understand where you're starting from, your target client, and then figure out the right tools and approaches to helping you build your lead funnel and manage it. And we can also help with the execution of actually sending out materials, whether it's newsletters or offers, webinars, things like that. Hopefully that helps.
Perfect. Thank you. We have another question. Can I find investors or grant givers for my small business through results resourcing?
Investors, or what was the second one?
Investors or grant givers.
Oh, grant. Okay. I think we could probably do research for you. But it's like, that would be, we're not going to have access to, we're talking small business here. We're not going to have access to things like PitchBook and things like that. But we can do ground level research for sure. Also utilizing AI to help figure out what is the best query to ask to really understand where is the most fertile territory to mine, for whatever that in the business is in terms of investment or grants. But yes, that would definitely be something that we could help research, as well as help complete grant applications to get those done. I would say, investor decks. Yes, I think we could probably do some of that, but you might want to get somebody more specialized in helping you really put together an investor deck, somebody that's experienced in getting investment capital, for a business. But we can certainly do a lot of legwork to get things set up for that kind of work.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any social organizations that help small businesses looking to go global? I run an art exhibition company in the UK, and I'm looking to expand to the US market if possible.
Well, I think there are, I can think of one organization off the top of my head. I think it's called the Global Chamber of Commerce here in the United States. And it is specifically geared to help businesses that are looking to do more business in the United States, or US businesses looking to do business internationally. And so feel free to drop me a note, and I can send you the link to connect you to that organization. Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh.
Sorry, just reading. There's an email address coming in from Tanya. She wants to know more information. Outsourcing seems overwhelming. I don't know where to start. What do you suggest?
Well, the first is you're not alone. I think everybody feels that way. And that's really why I really tried to break it down, starting with core versus non-core, because you don't have to outsource it all. If you think about, if you picked one thing you don't like to do, or you're not good at, or doesn't really generate revenue, and you just started with that, and the biggest thing that gets in your way the most, and you just start with that. And you find somebody that can help you with whatever that is, you just start. And then once that you become successful there, you kind of learn the ropes of outsourcing by that one example. And then ultimately that starts to free up time. And so maybe you pick another thing that's on your list that, well, this is the next thing that gets in my way. So you really can wade into this, as opposed to thinking about 100% of the processes that you do every day for your business. You just pick one or two, and then it won't be so overwhelming. And if you really just keep the buckets of, is it stuff that generates revenue or value, or stuff that doesn't? If you just think about those two buckets and don't make it more complex than that, then it really gets fairly easy to start picking off the things that are going to make a difference for your business. So that's really what I would strongly encourage you do. And then it's a matter of finding people that can help you. And you've got networks, you've got platforms, certainly us. There's a lot of options for finding people that can help you with whatever those things are. But I'm happy to talk to you further about that, because frankly, that's, I would say 80%, 90% of my conversations with people who are interested in our services start with, it's overwhelming. Where do I start? So you're not alone.
So Tony has another question. How would we connect with more organizations that align with our mission besides email or phone?
Well, I guess I would revert back to my original comment about that, is we really have to build the foundation to understand, what you've got in place. But, there's lots of different ways to research where target clients would be hanging out over the internet, for example, organizations. And it would be a matter of research projects to figure that out and what's the best way to approach people. So it was all would really go back to where things I said in the beginning.
She says, thank you so much. Kit has a question. I'm currently starting a business and cash is king. What is typical cost for outsource support through results resourcing?
Our base rate, again, we have US and Canadian freelancers and their teams rather than individuals. And, you build a relationship with Lana, for example, owns her own virtual assistant agency, and she is the person, if Lana was the right match for you, she would be the person that you would build a relationship with, and she would help delegate work to her team. But she's always on point to manage the relationship and help grow with you as your needs change. But our minimum rate is $45 an hour, but we have no minimums. So other than the fact that that's our base rate, you could actually start for 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week. It's going to cost about $100, to get 2 to 3 hours a week from a team that can help you do a whole lot of different things and basically help you optimize your time so you're spending it on your highest ROI activities, or helping you get the tools that you need that will set the foundation for a new business.
Okay, perfect. There was a question, but the question was answered in the chat. So, okay. What's the common mistake business owners make when first attempting to delegate outsource, and how can this be avoided?
I think the biggest mistake is trying to do too much. And I think that, kind of going back to the value of human beings, building trust with somebody and not looking at a virtual assistant as a throwaway relationship, but looking at it as a relationship to invest in, is an important mental attitude. And by doing that, you're respecting the skills of that virtual assistant, and that virtual assistant is getting to know you and appreciating the fact that you put value in that person. So many people just think virtual assistants are widgets and they're interchangeable, but they're not. They're human beings with skills. And so I think that mental frame is really important, because if you can build trust, obviously you want to have somebody that's got the skills that you need and is competent, reliable, nice. Those are the things that I think are really important. But, it's making a decision to invest in that relationship and build trust and make not a commitment in the sense of committing to hours or anything like that, but just I'm gonna work with this person to learn how to effectively scale my business by outsourcing stuff to him or her that they can do better than I can. And so I think it's that mental shift right there, is being more of a CEO of your business rather than the doer in your business, and finding a relationship with someone or a team you can trust, that you can begin the journey of delegating and not trying to do too much. To me, I think it's really picking the highest priority things on your list that are getting in the way, and starting with that, and in learning, developing the skills with those high priority things, and then moving beyond that. At the same time, I think it's also good to pick low risk work initially. So maybe the highest thing that gets in your way, might be doing working with your CRM system, which requires access to your contacts and things like that. That might not be the first thing you want to do because you haven't developed the right level of trust yet with that person. So I think it's a balancing act. I mean, but you don't want to start with something that could, hurt your business if something goes wrong. It's better to start with something that's more low impact, learn some skills, build some relationships so you can up the ante, working on things that are more and more important, or you find ways to protect your business. And it's like, obviously I have great confidence in the freelancers we work for, but there's a lot of people out there. You've got to be careful. And so I think that's kind of the key is finding somebody you can trust, building a relationship slowly, maybe starting with things that are lower risk that you're not as worried about, and building a relationship as well as your skills at delegating and outsourcing and working together.
Perfect. There's so many apps and tools to automate this and that. How do you decide what tool to use?
Well, honestly, I ask my virtual assistants because there are just too many. It's impossible to keep up. I mean, it's like there are so many different CRM systems out there, for example, which I hugely endorse that every business has one because you need to manage your data, and that's the place to start. There are free ones, there are all kinds of options out there, but honestly, the professional virtual assistants work in CRM systems, using that as an example, every single day. They're familiar with almost all of them. And then many are so similar. And you just read all the marketing material and it's so enticing, but it's, some of them really work a lot the same. So, I think that you can do research yourself, or you can work with people that work with these systems all the time, and they can help you narrow the field into ones that that are going to be the most effective for whatever it is you're trying to do with a given tool. So I think that reading the marketing material is not sufficient, or even the free trials, because even free trials, you kind of get back into that game of spending your time rather than investing your time. Yeah, you can do a free trial with a system, but is it the right system to you, or did you just spend 10, 15 hours figuring out it's way too complicated and you don't want to use that system, or it's not suitable for your work? So again, I think it's going back to talking to people who are expert at using these tools, especially the common tools that are common to most solopreneurs and small businesses would be the way to go.
Thank you so much. I have sensitive information that I work with my clients. Do your teams comfortable signing NDAs?
Yes, that would be a really important thing if you build the trust and you want, well, actually, I would say not every business wants to do this, but it's very common for our VA teams to sign NDAs and contracts, between the clients that they receive through us. So that's normal, not a problem whatsoever. But I think in particular, if you do want to have somebody work in your CRM system or work with more confidential information, that's even more important. But at the end of the day, an agreement doesn't necessarily mean something bad can't happen, and something bad can happen that isn't, frankly, the VA's fault either. So I think it's important to wade into anything more carefully. But signing a contract doesn't necessarily absolve or eliminate the risk. But yes, I think it's important for those kind of documents to be in place if you're talking about client important confidential information.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You mentioned Result Resourcing has a system. Does it have an invoicing system built into it? What does that look like at the end of the year when I want to do my taxes?
Yes, great question. So as I mentioned, we don't make our clients use our system because you don't need one more system to use. Really, what we do is we use the system to make us more efficient in working for you, and helps us help the VA teams we work with be more efficient too. So we basically set up a job, in our system. It gets matched with the team that has the right skills for a given client's engagement. And many times we encourage people to meet before they actually decide to move forward on an engagement. But at the end of the day, we launched the job on the results resourcing platform. It's matched to the team that is best matched to the job requirements. And, you know, we charge a one-time fee of $585 to get all set up in our system and get matched with a freelance team. And we charge a 1-hour job deposit. That's it. So if it's a basic VA job, $45, and that $45 gets applied to the first invoice, you know, in the system. And then our system it starts as a matchmaking platform, and then it becomes a payment processing system. And so all invoices come through our system. And we, you know, once you approve an invoice, then we pay the freelancer for you. And at the end of the year, you are provided with, you know, all the data about the payments through the system. And we handle 1099 processing, you know, based on the latest IRS decisions about how contract talent should be handled from a taxation standpoint. We are not accountants, but we provide the information that you can provide to your accountant.
Perfect. Thank you so much. There's only a couple of minutes left. Any last minute questions?
No? Well, let me thank you again for joining us, and I'm happy to talk further with any one of you about your questions and just to explore how freelance professionals can help you scale you and your business, and further answer any questions that came up or that you think about new. So I so appreciate your coming and joining us today. It helps me on my mission to help more small businesses and nonprofits who are on the call scale and have the impact that you want. So thank you so much for joining us today.